ladies and gentlemen. Today we have, as we usually are, very honored to have our wonderful guests. They're very, very busy. They're here today to give us an insight in their lives, and especially as a role model for Latinas and for women around the world who dream of being space scientists, space engineers, and going into the world of engineering and exploring all its options. And today, I'm just very, very happy. I'm just very thrilled to have Guadalupe Bañales being on our program. Hello, how you doing, Lupe?
Hi, I'm very happy to be here and share my story.
Thank you. I'm in Los Angeles and you are in Detroit. Now, how does it feel to be a Southern California gal living in Detroit right now?
Actually, not bad, because we have enough water over here. That's the one thing. We got that at least. But I do miss the California sun and the beaches over there.
You miss that. Wait, any Mexican restaurants out there?
They actually have a Mexican town in Detroit, and there's a few good restaurants that I'm just like amazed that comes close to my mom's food. So, and we've been hunting for them. Like me and my fiance, we've been looking for all the Mexican food, and there's actually more Mexican people than I expected out here. I was surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And since I've been at work, I hear the Spanish and people from all over the world, and you know, different kinds of dialects from Peru or Argentina. It's pretty cool. A lot of Latinos out here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what they say, second largest is Chicago? That's not that far away or something like that?
Oh, yeah. I got an aunt over there, so not too far away.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
It's about a 5-hour drive from here.
Oh, okay. I love your rainbow in the background. That's got to be pretty. I mean, you know.
Oh, thank you. I didn't do it. I'm just too lazy to paint over it.
You must be busy also. Yeah. Let's start with your story. Now, you know, trying to get back, and I'm reading your story here. You were an intern at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in NASA in Pasadena, California, and you were raised here in Southern California, and then now you're working for General Motors in Detroit. And we're going to sort of go from your past to your present and sort of tell us how you achieved that wonderful feat. But let me take you back. I like your story. That first of all, tell us about you and your experience of getting your bachelor's degree.
Oh, it was a long struggle. I didn't take like the easy route. I took the long, kind of complicated route just because I didn't understand the concept of college really well. I didn't understand what a major meant, or what is it called? What were my options for college as well? So for me, it was kind of a struggle to try to figure out, how do I get through this? Because I know I kept hearing, get your bachelor's degree and you're going to be able to, you know, get a career out of it. And my parents didn't finish elementary school, so they couldn't guide me at all. And so what I ended up just doing was talking to people. Like when I worked at a fast food restaurant, Boeing engineers used to come there and eat. And then I would always ask them questions. I'm like, well, what do you do? And how'd you get there? And just kind of like learning from, they would always tell me, well, like if you're really interested in getting a career, go to college. So actually when I started college, I didn't know that you needed to pick a major. So I ended up taking a bunch of random classes. And everybody kept telling me, you have enough time, you have enough time. And I'm like, okay, I'm young, I have enough time. And before I know it, I'm just like, all right, 4 years have passed. And I'm like, wait, aren't I supposed to have a career out of this? So I started I finally figured out I need to have a major and I need to have a goal to transfer to the university, because that's where I'm going to get my degree. And the way I finally decided on a major was when just things that were going on around me. I was being involved with some of the groups that were trying to get cleaner air and pass like policies to have kind of the Port of LA get greener trucks in the city. And so that kind of motivated me to be like, oh, more green energy, like hybrid technology. And then my first car that I had was actually breaking down all the time. And it was very frustrating because I remember my savings that I had was all going into that car. But the good thing out of it, I got such a good education and being able to bond with my dad, learning about cars. And from that, like from asking all these questions, I'm like, well, why is this way? Why is that way? My dad couldn't answer those questions because he only knew so much. So then I figured, once I looked into it, the power of Google, I got to tell you, if you don't have somebody to guide you, do your research on Google, and you're able to find the answers sometimes. Just make sure you check your sources. And I was able to figure out that mechanical engineering would be able to lead into an automotive industry, which kind of would open up a path to actually work on hybrid technology. So that's when I actually started doing my major towards mechanical engineering in particular. And I was very lucky that then I was able to transfer to Cal State LA. I did actually transfer to UC Merced first, thinking that I'm like, okay, this might be good. It ended up, since it was a new school, it wasn't right for me. So I ended up transferring to Cal State LA. And there I got actually very lucky because they had a program called EcoCart, and it had 15 schools competing to build a hybrid vehicle out of a Chevy Malibu. And it was sponsored by General Motors. And so I was on the mechanic tuners, and out of that I was able to actually learn a lot about hybrid technology and, you know, get exposed to real industry tools. And that was awesome. It was probably like, I don't know, I feel like sometimes like things get in your path to kind of guide you to a certain place. And I feel like I went to Merced and I didn't try it, but it's good that it failed, because I failed there because I was able to go to Cal State LA and have this great opportunity to participate there. And I was also being able to get my 2 internships at NASA JPL. And
because you were in the neighborhood.
Yeah. And so for me, it took me probably about almost like 8 years to get my bachelor's degree. So I took a longer way. So people were like, yeah, what is it called? When they get their bachelor's degree, you know, they get it in 4 years. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like a lifetime. But, you know, I want to tell people out there, sometimes your path is not the same or the traditional way, but don't give up along the way, because you just got to make sure you stay on path and you keep your mind like focused, and you'll be able to do it.
Let me sort of, I have some questions about some of the things you mentioned in your past. Now, you must have been good in math, because I mean, you entered this field and it's constant, you know, obviously it's math. I mean, you must have been really good.
Yeah, I was pretty good. I struggled with some subjects because it just didn't come as natural. So I had to study a little bit longer than other people, because sometimes, I don't know, maybe I have ADD or something. And the lectures, like, I would sit there and the professors would be talking and I couldn't get what they were trying to get to explain. But I would go home and I would look at the book and study and do examples, and then I would get it. So it took a little bit extra work for me. So if it doesn't come natural, it doesn't mean that you can't get it. So,
and the idea of studying math in your high school, I don't know what high school you went to, so if you could mention it, you know, what was the attitude of your teachers, of your surrounding, your peers about you being in the math class and doing well?
Well, actually didn't. So this is interesting. I actually did really bad in high school. Because I actually would leave school sometimes because I was being involved in a lot of other groups, like feeding the homeless, and I would go be part of other events. And I actually ended up leaving my school for an independent study program because I wanted to graduate early. And it enabled me to leave school early and get my diploma. And I was able to then kind of focus more on social work in a sense, because I thought that's what the path that I wanted to take. And when I found that just doing social work wasn't I couldn't help others if I couldn't help myself first, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And so then that's when I was like, I need to do a career, because, you know, I could be out here trying to advocate these things, but sometimes money talks and you don't have the finances to fund certain things and you can't help others. So I was really totally not like the normal student.
No, you're not. When you said you took advice from the customers taking in, what specifically turned you on to the idea of engineering? I mean, when did you say, no, this is something I want to look at?
I know I did like math a lot, even though I didn't pay attention in class sometimes, but it came a lot more natural, I think. And in that sense, were certain like subjects like trigonometry, like sometimes, even though, how do I explain it? like it's something that I actually enjoyed. And
was it the mystery of trying to figure it out? To you, it was like, you know, so, sort of a detective, and you had this problem and you're trying to work it out?
yeah, and also, I don't know if you ever worked on a problem where you're so focused in it and you just keep working and working at it, and all of a sudden, like, the time goes by and you finally arrive to the solution and you're just like, eureka, like, oh my God. And it's a good feeling because you're like, I don't know, you get into your own sphere of being able to solve something. And I really like that feeling. Like sometimes I love the problems that took me pages sometimes to solve, just because I got so involved in it. And I did enjoy that part. But when I was talking to the customers, they were kind of telling me about the things that they were doing at work, you know, like they're building planes or, you know, and that was interesting to me. And I was like, well, what are you supposed to do also to get there, to get to that point? You know, what's your type of background? And I slowly started kind of in community college, like building my strength in these areas.
Wow, that's fantastic. How did you end up deciding to go to work at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory?
Well, I mean, I really love space exploration as well. One of my favorite movies is Contact. I don't know if you ever watched it with Jodie Foster. Yeah. And, you know, that movie really fascinated me, and the idea of possible life out there, or humans being able to explore more and even expand into other planets. And so when I heard about JPL and it was part of NASA and the type of work that they did, I'm like, this is something I might be interested in doing, and, you know, be pretty cool to have I don't know, you know, what is it called? Work on a spaceship that's actually taking people out, you know, to explore the moon or something like that. But I was actually very lucky with the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, because the way I was able to get an internship there is because I went to a women in engineering event that they held there, and they had invited a bunch of different schools, and I'm very shy. So, and they had some of the HR people there talking to people, to different students that came to visit. And I was very bold, where I had my resume with me, and I came all dressed up because I didn't know what kind of event this was. So I came all dressed up. I brought my resume and a nice little folder, and I went up to one of the HR ladies after everybody was already clearing out, and I asked her, I'm like, would you look at my resume and give me advice? Like, tell me, what does it take to get to become an engineer here? And she looked at my resume, she just smiled, and she's like, okay, I will get back to you, and, you know, with some advice. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, great, my resume is going in the trash. So I ended up going home, and then like about a few days later, this lady contacts me, asking me or giving me some advice about my resume. She's like, okay, you need to just fix like this grammar here and elaborate more on this. And I'm like, all right. So I did this, and she's like, send me your resume once you fix it so I can take another look at it. Once I fixed it, I sent it to her, and then later on, I get a phone call probably about a few weeks later from one of the engineers there that he wanted to have me be his intern. And I was just like, wait, what?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, so what do I have to do? And I wasn't even in I guess you had to do some official application, and I hadn't done it. But since he got my resume and I guess liked all the work that I had, which some of it involved being an EcoCar, because they had exposed me to real world tools like CAD software. So that was very useful for them. And kind of rare to have somebody like a student know that software. So I was able to get that position, and that's kind of how I was able to work for that position. For my first internship, I was able to work on like a new concept for a future telescope in Chile. So that was a lot of fun, because I was able to work with astrophysicists from Caltech, and then I was able to work with other engineers and kind of learn more about how JPL worked. And that's when I met Alfonso, actually, because he sat in the office across from me. And I remember I just kept hearing Spanish, like every so often when I was sitting at my desk, and I was just like, wow, like there must be like another Latino here. And like, I think the few days before I ended up leaving my internship, I went up to him and I asked him, I'm like, by chance, are you Mexican? Like, it's a weird question to ask somebody.
Alfonso Feria from Mexico City.
Yeah, so I asked him and he was just like, yeah. And after that, we just started chit-chatting and became good friends. And he just kind of also took on a mentor role for me, where he gave me a lot of good advice and how to navigate my career as well. And it was very a good turning point in my life as well.
It's a wonderful mentor. The Latino Association group on JPL and also Alfonso Feria is just outstanding group. I can't say enough great things about them as well. I sort of fast jumped a little bit and I missed the Cal State LA EcoCard idea. If I can back up a little bit and go back to that, how did you end up selecting California State University, Los Angeles, and then the idea of joining that particular group?
Well, I wanted to be closer to home, because at the time, actually, when I went to Merced, I had just started a relationship with who is now my current fiance, and he was still in LA. So we both wanted to be together, and he's also an engineer. And we applied to the same university, and I said, if I get accepted, then it's meant for me to come back, because I applied for like a summer session, and I thought it would be very difficult at the point where I was at to be able to transfer colleges again. So, but I was very lucky. I got accepted, and I was just like, okay, it's meant to be. I'm going back to Los Angeles. I miss my family, and I also knew that Cal State LA had been around for a while, and they had NASA, and they had a lot of vehicle, like SAE, Formula SAE, like groups that are already more established in teams. And so I'm like, okay, like this is where I want to be. I want to be in a school that's more established and it's doing a lot of engineering projects, because I had looked online what would make me a more, I guess, desirable candidate in the job market. And it kept popping up. Make sure you become part of different groups that are, engineering projects, and make sure you get internships. And don't just kind of hide behind the book and, focus on your studies. Be active, network, and get these experiences. So Cal State LA was perfect for that.
You sort of mentioned, now I'm connecting dots. So your experience in high school working on social groups and helping those groups, actually those skills transferred over when you were in the engineering. Is this the case?
A little bit. I'm still kind of shy every so often, but every once in a while, I get this feeling inside. I don't know if you ever had it, like oh, I'm gonna be brave, and then you just kind of go for it, like when you really want something. And that was some of the things that I had, like at Cal State LA, like when I applied for that program for EcoCard, because it was my first class that I took at Cal State LA. My professor announced this new program for hybrid vehicles, and he was looking to recruit, so you had to actually apply to it. And I'm like, all right, I went to the career center, and I went and I talked to a lady, and I'm like, okay, like I need to work on my resume. And I had her look at my resume, and I submitted it. And then 2 days later, I find out I'm on the team. And then a few days later, they're like, okay, you're a lead. I'm like, okay, I don't know how to be a leader. Like, what does a lead do? It's like, I've never heard of how do they run this program? So it was kind of like being thrown into the fire and, fighting your way out.
So much for bringing experience with you on how to do these cars. All of a sudden, you're the lead on the team. It's like, I haven't even seen the car.
Well, at least I wasn't the lead for the overall team, but I was the lead for the mechanical team. And I was just like, oh, great. This is going to be terrible for the team. And I still didn't have enough confidence, Because I thought I was going to be one of the people that was going to be like, okay, go do this and go work on that. And no, later on, I was putting together the project plan for our team and making sure everybody was doing things. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this.
That's hilarious. And to think that you were going to slowly go up the ladder, and next thing you know, almost here you are. Huh?
Oh, yeah. And it was a struggle for our team, because at first our school didn't want to support us because it was a new project. So there was like 8 of us, and we were constantly trying to get more funding. So we were like constantly, what is it called? We felt like the underdogs in a sense. Like a lot of these other schools were established in the program, like they had done the previous versions of the program, and they had like 40 to 50 students that were, committed. We had like 8. We were struggling. Like sometimes we would be at the lab, like, till 5 in the morning writing papers, and you really like dedicated a lot. And when I finally ended up getting the what is it called, the offer from General Motors to like work there, and like I felt that moment of it paid off. All that time that you want to complain, like, oh my God, I'm here, like I'm working really hard, like it ends up paying off. And even though it's not right away, like you just gotta stick it out.
Now, okay, so I'm trying to put a little bit of dates together.
Yeah.
You were in the Eco Car project at Cal State LA. Then somewhere in there you applied to go to Jet Propulsion Laboratory.
For the summertime.
For the internships.
Yeah.
So were you in both programs simultaneously?
Yeah. And then I was working at Trader Joe's as well. So,
oh my God.
So I have this bad habit of probably putting too much on my plate. But even right now that I'm just working, like sometimes I feel antsy because I'm like, I need more stuff on my plate. So right now I'm in the process of applying to my master's. Just because you constantly, I don't know, you have that drive, and if your time isn't completely like filled up, you're kind of, I don't know, one of those people that needs to be busy.
Yeah, you have a lot of ideas. You have all this potential inside of you. When you were in the program at Cal State LA, you were in this team. Did you have other women in the group, and how did that impact you as being a Latina?
Dedicated women, there wasn't as many. I found it that it was a little bit hard sometimes, especially just in engineering. I noticed in my classes there wasn't that many females, and it's not that because they're not good. Sometimes it is a really tough major, and it's not easy. Like I don't think there was a good support group for females there. I know I struggled with it sometimes, where I felt kind of like out of place, because some of the jokes that would go around, or what is it called? You just didn't have like other females to relate to. And I feel sometimes you even felt like you were competing against each other. Even though you don't want to, you would just feel like, oh, there's another female. And I don't know, it just felt like unhealthy. And I could see how some females didn't want to be involved in that, Or if they try to join, they kind of, I don't know what discouraged them. For me, like I stayed through it because I did have, some of my members that I was there from the beginning, and I had earned a lot of the respect to be able to, work with my colleagues and be seen as the same. But it was still sometimes you would get the jokes and.
I wonder how much preparation you actually had to be in a male-dominated environment, having worked along with your father.
Oh, having worked. Oh, can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Working on the cars with him.
It was great once I was older. When I was little, I would always try to go with my dad and get him to let me help him, but he would always push me away, and he would be like, "Shoot, go over there, like like you're bothering me." And then once I was older, I'm a little bit more like rebellious in a sense to him, and I'm like, no, I'm not going away, like I want to learn. And I noticed my dad's personality even changed from like having that machismo to being more appreciative, because he started noticing like, hey, you're actually picking up stuff fast. And he started noticing that I was doing things that kind of were contrary to his belief that women should be doing certain roles in the household. And I noticed even now, like me and him, our bond has become a lot greater since I went into engineering and followed in a sense with his footsteps by learning more about cars. But it wasn't easy, trust me.
I'm dying to ask you this. I've been asking myself, should I ask you or not? I'm going to ask. I'm going to throw myself in there. You mentioned that you had this car and you were having a lot of troubles with it. Was it a General Motors car?
No, it was Toyota.
I had to ask. I had to ask. I couldn't let that one go by. And how did your family respond to the idea that you were going up to Merced?
They were really sad, but they were happy because at first they weren't sure what I was doing. They just knew that I would disappear for part of the day, you know, like, oh, she's still at school doing something. And then later on, they started kind of getting ideas. Like when I finally got my internship at NASA, like my mom, like, she started looking it up on the internet. She's like, NASA, like, oh my God, my daughter's working at NASA. All of Mexico, I think, found out from my mom and dad because they were so proud. And they were saying that I was working on the lander. I'm like, Mom, no. I'm not even working on those projects. I had to calm down.
You're around them and you're picking up a lot of it. I mean, you know, because I thought, you know, what's the connection between learning about cars and then all of a sudden being in exploratory spacecraft?
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not like it's going to crash toward another spacecraft. So I couldn't see the connection. But it sounds to me the idea was that you're just a mechanical engineer, so it gives you the exposure in many areas.
Yeah, not just that. I love both areas. I mean, I could do, you know, if I quit GM today and I went to work at JPL, I would be happy because it's something that when I was there, I felt really happy and I loved, like, the amount of knowledge that was going around. But I also do love GM. Like, the more I work here, the more I'm, like, fascinated by how the vehicle development process works and all the new great technologies that we're coming out with in the future and how we're trying to reduce like emissions. So I would be happy in both spheres.
Wow, that's wonderful. Do you see yourself as a career, long-term career at General Motors, or no one knows the future, but just sort of a general question?
It has potential. At first, I wasn't sure because I mean, I'm coming from California to Michigan. My family's all in California. I'm coming out here and I'm just like, I didn't know anybody and it's a whole new environment. And I wasn't sure what to expect, like working in the auto industry. But the more I'm here, like, and the more I'm learning about it, there's a lot of nice people here. You create your new communities and your new friends out here. We have a women's group here that we meet like every other Wednesday for dinner. And we talk about what goes on in our lives. And that's a really good support group that, you know, I wish I had also in college. But I see that GM is bringing in all these new people because a lot of the old knowledge is about to like retire. And so they're really trying to groom the new people to take on these roles that are going to be, you know, left, like all these gaps that are going to be left when people plan to retire.
Right, and there's a lot of old house that are retiring very quickly. Yeah. Isn't the top administration of General Motors a female?
Barra? Yeah.
Okay.
And, yeah, I got to meet her once. She was really nice. And
did she come up through the engineering or through the financial side? I don't know her background.
Yeah, from my understanding, she came up through, I think, electrical engineering. And then later on, after a few years there, she started, I guess they saw great potential in her and they invested in her to get her MBA. So she got her MBA, I think, from Stanford. And that's the one good thing about GM. They, if they see potential in you, they'll invest in you, like they'll pay for your education. Like the program that I'm doing for my master's is going to be completely paid for. So it's great because I don't have to pay $50,000 out of my own pocket.
What college are you planning to attend for your?
University of Michigan.
Okay. So you're going to have to be cheering for the Spartans.
I guess. Oh, I don't know if they're Spartans. I think there's something else, right?
I don't know.
I'm not into sports. I don't know. I just know it's go blue.
What do you say to women that, you know, going back where they're saying in their minds, high school or even in middle school, you know, I think I love math. I think I like this. I think I want to use math for a career. What's your advice to them?
Like, I guess make sure you invest in your time in those classes. If you really like it, then don't just say, I'm going to do my homework later. Actually do your homework and, you know, get the best grades you can in those classes and start looking at, at Google, what are different careers that involve this type of math and that type of math. And, you'll end up noticing that a lot of the stuff you're studying in class, at first you're looking at it, I'm like, well, what do I care? What's the meaning of X, in this equation? But the more you kind of understand and try to do word problems, you see the connection to the real world and how you're able to solve problems. And so I would encourage them to try to find the connections between math and the real world, if possible.
Give me an example if you can. Something that maybe in high school where, I'm doing algebra and I'm doing trig and I'm doing those fields, and yet how at that stage would I experience the real world of using math?
Give you an example for high school math. Maybe I don't know, one personal experience for me, some of the stuff that I learned in high school, trigonometry, I was actually able to use that JPL to try to calculate certain angles for the telescope. And so what would be a simplified version? I don't know, I can't come up with one right now.
No, I know it's a little bit hard, but yet the idea, it seems to me that what you're sharing is that it is important to have both and not just one without the other, or they strengthen each other if they're able to be put them together.
Yeah, and I think, but there's some people that do go into theoretical math, which is way out there.
Right.
If that's what you're into, go for it. But for me, I like more real world math that I could actually apply to, the speed of the vehicle and how much, force it would take, if you were to hit another car or something like that.
I'm being very somewhat specific, but if you could sort of give me a little bit of background in your job, your current position. Are you in the crash structural part of the car or development, or more into the green portion of it? What section do you work in?
So right now I am currently working on body structures. So it's kind of safety. So what I currently work on is making sure that the body and the frame's strong enough to be able to take certain loads on the vehicle, and like torsional loads on the vehicle, and make sure that the car's stiff enough so that the ride and handling is really great. And people, you hit that speed bump, you're not going to feel it. But there's a bunch of different loads that I work on. I'm not sure how much I could say about them.
No, I don't need the specifics, but I'm just saying you're in that area as well. So do you find yourself always in a room sort of working with other engineers up on the boards, or are you out in the field looking at the cars as they're being tested?
A little bit of everything. A lot of it, the majority of the time, I'm spending on the computer modeling and setting up the model with the different loads and running the analysis, and then presenting my analysis to the other engineers, like the program team. And we discuss the results. If they're not favorable, we troubleshoot and we try to figure out solutions. And if, if they're favorable, then, you look really good. And hopefully what you analyze on the computer comes out good, because they actually also test the vehicles. So you'll have your computer testing your simulations, but then they actually test the vehicle to make sure that what you said was going to come out is true. Because there's a certain disparity, that just a small one, between the computer and the real world.
Wow. I mean, I could go on for days asking you questions about this. I love the aerodynamic side. So, I have a little bit of background in that. So I'm really curious about this, especially when there's so many different kinds of cars, under so many conditions, under so many variations of markets, East Coast, West Coast, different climates. So it's something that is not easy to figure out. I'll take that into account as well.
Yeah. So, and then, but I'm currently, I'm actually part of this rotation program at GM. So, which is really great, because for a lot of the new engineers, they don't want you to feel like you're stuck. They want you to feel exposed to a bunch of different areas before you commit somewhere. So I have the opportunity to rotate into a different position. My next position is actually going to be in hybrid vehicles. So where I'm going to be able to help select the architectures for the hybrid vehicles. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be sometime around February, if all goes as planned.
Now, being that General Motors is worldwide, is all the work always done in Detroit, or would you see in the future having to go to different countries?
My work, the one that I'm currently doing, being in North America is enough for me, but I know of my friends that do have to travel a little bit to different plants within the U.S. They do have opportunities for you to do positions outside of the United States. So you could go work in Mexico. You could work in South Korea.
What? When did that happen?
South Korea. I think they have plants in China. So you get these opportunities to be able to travel in different parts of the world. And usually they recommend you try to do one of these positions if you really want to move up in the company. Right.
Wow. Yeah, it is a global company, and it's just going to get larger. There's no way around that.
Yeah.
Wow. It sounds like you're very happy that even though it took you 8 years to get your bachelor's degree, that you're happy you did it despite all the work you went through.
Yeah, it wasn't an easy route, but I'm glad. Like when I got it, it was just like, oof, finally. And then now, like I one of the things that I would do for a long time was I had a journal, and I would set up like my goals. So I would set my goals for like the next 3 years, next 5 years, and then revisit them. And I think it's really healthy for you to kind of have something that you're striving for and that reminder there. And so like I was just telling my fiance, I'm like, okay, well, I already accomplished all these goals that I set 5 years ago. Like now what do I do? What are my next goals? And now it's like buying a house and other goals that I want to accomplish.
Wow, that's outstanding. I applaud your work. Like you said, it was not easy. I can only imagine how many nights you stayed up doing your math and trying to break your head, and how many times you just wanted to throw the pencil on the other side of the room and says, enough is enough. Why am I doing this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of hard work, the physics and some of the strength and materials classes that you're taking. They're very involved, like the homework and all that.
That's wonderful. Where where can our viewers find out more and follow you as your development? Do you maintain a social page somewhere?
Well, I think you could follow my LinkedIn and you could email me, I guess. I don't know about my Facebook because I think I have it on private, so I don't know if people could see my stuff on there. There's nothing bad on there. There's just a lot of cats. I post up a lot of pictures of cats, and people are going to be like,
oh, no, my cousin's a cat person. He loves cats.
Yeah.
But that's cool. I don't mind that at all. That's wonderful. So I want to, applaud your success. Thank you for taking the time and sharing with women, any woman who wants to get into the engineering world. And again, you've given me so many pearls of wisdom. I'm trying to pull one more out of you. One more point of interest that you want to share with our viewers.
For if they're trying to pursue their dreams, in a sense, I guess if you're given certain circumstances, kind of try to, instead of looking at yourself as a victim or like, well, I didn't have these parents that could pay for this or pay for that, or that were pushing me. Take some responsibility in a sense and take some initiative to change your circumstances around and be able to do your homework. If you don't have money for books, go to the library. There's a lot of free resources out there. Look for mentors. Like I was very lucky to have people that they wanted to share their story with me. They wanted to kind of give me advice, like Alfonso, like some of my professors too. Like, you have that power to change your life around. And even there's times where I'm like, I was just eating a cup of noodles, but it was kind of like, what else can you do? You just kind of fight through it and don't give up, because definitely it's worth it. Once you get that degree and, you have your offer for the job, like it pays off because you're feeling like, wow, like I did this.
It didn't come from luck. It came from very hard work.
Yeah, it was a lot of hard work. And also being a good person, like making sure that when you are talking to other people, being polite as well. You don't want to, what is it called, push people away. You want to try to like make friends and network and be real with them too.
It sounds also, if I start taking my notes, is that you were also willing to ask people for their help.
Yeah, I was willing to ask them, like, especially people that I saw that were doing really good. Like, I know I have this one friend, I don't know if she's even watching, but Alejandra, we grew up together from the same neighborhood. And I remember, you know, she came up with a very tough life as well, you know, where she had her problems in her home. And now she's a very successful, you know, is it physiologist, I think, or, but she studies like diseases, and she got to present in Africa, and she has all these successes. And I remember when we were in school, she would get all these awards and do good. And I would always be like, well, how'd you do it? You know, like I would ask her for advice, you know, and so don't be afraid to ask somebody that you see that are doing really good. Like, you know, what motivates you? Like, you know, like, it's okay to kind of look up to somebody and ask for their advice.
Wow, that's true. I mean, that's advice that is not commonly given out to individuals. Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, it could have been your own peers.
Your own peers, and be able to ask persons that are doing better than you, how did you get up there, and can you please help me, and how can I assist you?
Yeah, right. Good advice.
Well, we've kept you already long enough, and I want to thank you again for your valuable time. I wish you continuous success with whatever company you're in, and I think they're also very fortunate to have you because you seem like you do things out of passion, not out of work. So that's something I've sort of seen through you as we've had this wonderful dialogue. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking to Guadalupe Bañales, and we wish her continued success, her family for supporting her, and Dr. Alfonso Feria and the Latino group at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in NASA who helped us put this together. And they kept telling me, you got to talk to her, you got to talk to her. I said, done deal. It's just a matter of coordinating.
I'm very honored. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you, Lupe. And we'll continue to follow you and your successes in the future. And with that, we say adios, and we thank your family also for all their support, because I know that they also had to struggle to support you through all this as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they gave me, you know, they were there to listen to me vent. Definitely.
Okay, Lupe. Take care of yourself, and we will follow you and your successes.
Thank you.
Ándale pues. Adios.
Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Armando F. Sanchez. I've been your host. I'm also the CEO, producer of Armando F. Sanchez Productions. And it's just my thrill to do these shows because I get to meet all these wonderful, wonderful individuals. You can contact me at lsacnational@hotmail.com and find me on Facebook and LinkedIn and Armando F. Sanchez. And again, just follow the persons like her. And if someone in your background, someone in your neighborhood needs that support, they're trying to go through something very difficult, you know, they don't have to get scholarships from major corporations. Little persons, little companies, little individuals, if you can help them so that they have 2 cups of noodle instead of 1 a day, hey, that's a scholarship for them as well. Let's keep them going. Thank you, Lupe. Adios.
Thank you. Later.